We're here with Sofia and Melissa talking about the new book, The Return to the Isle of the Lost. It's so exciting. I loved reading it. Melissa, you did such a good job. Such a good job. I was a little confused at first. Okay. How does this fit into the big picture of Descendants? So I'm just going to do a little explanation. Sure. So first, there's the Isle of the Lost. Mm-hmm. Can you hold this to represent the first one? And then Descendants movie, which really should be you. And then comes this. Correct? Returns, yeah. So, if you want to know what happened before Descendants and after Descendants, this is what you should do. Totally read these books.
That was fantastic.
Thank you. One thing that I loved about your books, Melissa, is you totally wrote as if, like, Sofia was talking. It felt like I could imagine every word that you were saying in person. Yeah. Did it help you at all to kind of know your backstory more and like what happened afterwards? Like, was that exciting for you as an actor?
Oh my gosh, totally. When I read the birthday party scene, I was like, this is such a beautiful setup. You know, it makes them victims of the worst parenting in the world and also just establishes the fairy tale tone that you were talking about earlier, which is what Descendants is. And, you know, it's this modern fairy tale brought to life in such a beautiful way. And you kind of forget that you're reading for a while because it kind of is like you're reading a movie and it kind of becomes this movie in your mind, and it's so fast-paced, has such beautiful messages, and I really enjoyed reading it, and it just doesn't feel like you're reading something. Do you know what I mean?
Do you even get to know more about why the characters feel the way they do, what their insecurities are as they go through different challenges? Which character do you identify with the most?
Oh, you know, in that book, I think Mal, because she has to rely on her friends, and that's really hard for me. It's hard for me to ask for help, you know, and I think that's something that, you know, we all struggle with because we all want to show that we're strong, we can do it, you know, but she actually can't get to her goal without relying on her friends.
I would say Evie. I don't want to give too much away, but I've always found a little bit of myself in Evie, especially in the second book, because she's evolved a little bit from the first movie. So I would say definitely Evie.
I know Evie isn't completely like you, but what are some ways that you feel like you're similar and different?
Evie is such a fashionista, and I love fashion as well. I loved all of her wardrobe, all of her outfits, so that's one thing that we have in common. And Evie taught me a lot. I think I just loved her story so much because, you know, as girls, it's so important to hear, and what Melissa did so beautifully, and the script as well. You're not defined by your reflection in the mirror. You're beautiful, you are strong, and we're not our parents. So even if you are a victim of the worst parenting in the world, like these kids, you can still find your path, and you can, you know, be strong and be beautiful and be who you are.
One thing I like about Evie is that even though she wanted to be the fairest and be so beautiful, she still helps other people be beautiful. Totally. Like whether it's making their outfits or providing some cosmetics, which I won't give away.
She's very generous in that sense. Yes, Evie has a very good heart, which I love about her.
What was one of your favorite scenes to write?
Evie's first chapter, where she's making her castle coming dress. You know, it's like homecoming, but it's castle coming. And then Mal comes in with this huge problem, and then they kind of help themselves through it. You know, they kind of rely on each other as friends. It just felt so natural for me, and I just really like, you know, writing about really deep friendships between girls. You know, I don't feel like there's enough of that out there, and, you know, we're really supportive of each other, so I wanted to show these two girls from the Isle of the Lost, you know, really kind of bonding and helping each other. So that's one of my favorites.
There is a scene, which I won't get into too much detail, where she is wearing heels for a long time. Could you do that as well, or would you go for flats?
You know, I happen to do that almost on the daily basis. I'm like in heels from like 6 in the morning till I get home, and I'm like, well, I'm not doing this tomorrow, and then I do it all over again. So Evie, I believe me, I feel you, girl. I know where you're struggling.
And how do you go through that? Because sometimes it really does hurt.
Sometimes it really does hurt, but you know, I find it worse when you sit down. So in the scene, which we can't talk about, Evie doesn't really sit down much, and I think that's usually better because when you sit down, the pressure kind of comes off and you start to feel the pain. But eventually you just have to just pop them off. Yeah.
I find that wedges are easier.
Wedges are much easier, but if you want to look glamorous and fashionable like Evie, you gotta wear heels.
What's your number one tip from Evie for beauty and fashion?
My number one tip for Evie is to just be you, and your most beautiful and most important accessory is to smile.
Aw, that's so good.
My mom always tells me that, so. And my real mom, not the evil queen.
Although she would agree.
Amazing one.
With lots of blush.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Melissa Cruz.
And I'm Sofia Carson. Make sure to check out the sequel to Isle of the Lost, Return to the Isle of the Lost. It's amazing, and we can't wait to share it with you guys. Make sure you check out the next issue of Justine magazine to find out which Descendants villain you are.